Today's episode, we'll be talking about the League of Legends finals that is going to be occurring on November 2nd. This is going to be recorded right after the T1 versus Gen.G game, where T1 has won officially 3-1. Now, we're going to be talking about the points of like our predictions for the finals, who we are rooting for, and each kind of pros and cons for each team. Please let us know if you enjoy this, because we will like to talk about League of Legends esports, or any esports for that matter, a little bit more in the future. So let us know down below. With that being said, let's start off with our predictions, and more importantly, our favorites for the game. Gio, I know you don't usually follow, I don't want to say religiously, but you don't follow the entire tournament. You don't follow the local scenes, LCS or LCK or anything like that.
Yeah.
But you do watch the finals every time. Who's your predictions, and who are you rooting for?
Well, like you said, this is actually a Worlds tournament that I haven't actually tuned in too much this year. I'll definitely be tuning in for the finals, absolutely, especially with T1 being in it. So that gives it away that, obviously I'm going for T1. Faker has probably been not probably, he is the gamer that I've followed probably the majority of his career and the most out of any popular gamer or streamer out there. I've always followed Faker. I think one of the standout things and cool things was that Faker making it onto ESPN way back in the day, being the first gamer to ever be on ESPN, have a segment dedicated to him, was pretty insane for the gaming world. So that's why I'm basically a T1 fan. He's the reason. If anybody can try to disagree with me, but he's the reason why League of Legends is.
Yeah, so I will agree with you. I can't actively say that I'm rooting for BiliBili, especially when I have this chair. I am a T1 fan. Have always been a T1 fan for a long time. They're one of those teams. I actively root for our local team, Cloud9. But if Cloud9, actually, if any NA team is not in the top 8, which is very often, I would root for a T1. With that being said, this is finally BiliBili's first time getting into finals. They are a Chinese team that are very, very strong, and they don't usually come out top of the standings, and this is the first time they've been in a finals. Another Korean versus Chinese standoff for the finals again. But I wouldn't be mad if BiliBili won, especially since they're the underdogs going into this. Now, it is a best of 5.
Mm-hmm.
What are the predictions on the win count? Is it 3-0 T1? Is it 3-1 T1? What are your thoughts?
I think I don't want to make, how could I say, that mistake in a sense where you see the David and Goliath comparison kind of deal. The T1 is the powerhouse. They got Faker. They got Zeus. You got the experience there. They've been there so many times. They've done this. You just expect them to win. But I don't want to undermine BiliBili and say they're going to get 3-0'd. So, and I'm going to show them the respect because I've seen their team, like you said, they're usually in the tournaments and they're usually high. So they know what they're doing too. Obviously, it's their first time making it. So you also got to take into account maybe they have that hunger that sometimes experienced team lack when especially T1 coming off a World's victory. I'm not saying they're lacking it because I'm sure Faker's as competitive as ever, and the T1 is maybe looking to prove a point. But I don't want to say they're going to get 3-0. So I'm gonna give the respect to BiliBili and say they're going to make it a series, and I'm going to say it's going to be say it's going to take all 5 games, but T1's going to come out on top.
Making it a 3-2, I think it's very I don't want to say. I'll just say it. I think it's going to be a 3-1. The reason why I think it's a 3-1 is that T1 has the experience of final playoffs, and I do think BiliBili is coming into this with hunger, but they're also coming into this with a lot of pressure. I think Bin is a veteran, and he's going to go against Zeus, which is a very like good matchup to see. We're also getting Knight versus Faker, which are two different playstyles altogether, as well in the mid lane. So it's going to come down to who's the better bot lane, and that bot lane is going to be very decisive in these game matchups. And I do think Carrier just better as a bot lane than on. So I think this is 3-1. Maybe they pick up, BiliBili is able to pick up a game from like mistakes that T1 does occasionally do. But I think the veterancy and the experience from T1 will pull it out in the end. And that's not to say that they're not gifted, by the way. I do think BiliBili is a quality team. The upset against Weibo Gaming, which people were predicting, and people actually predicted Gen G to beat T1 in that last series, because of how, I don't want to say lackluster, but how many flaws and vulnerabilities T1 has been showing in the last few series that they've been playing. So Gen G was predicted to win, and when T1 won, people were probably, I don't want to say upset, but like actually shocked that they can come and close. But T1 is always clutch time, man. T1, when for whatever reason they can show a lackluster preseason or main season in the LCK, but once they are in top 8 in Worlds, like for whatever reason, they just have a button, they have a switch that just turns on, and they're just a completely different team. Like, I honestly think that the LCK teams do not fear T1 until they get to Worlds. They're like, T1 in World, T1 in our local scene, man. In LCK, we're like, we're competitive, but once they hit like top 8, we're like, that's a different team. That's not T1. That's SKT right now.
Yep. But I just want to say that I get what you're saying. I just want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think sometimes when you're the big dog like T1, sometimes you might make some little mistakes that might come and bite you, and maybe you don't feel as threatened as by the other team as you should. And that's why I say maybe BiliBili might pull off 2 from them. I don't think it'll be like, how can you say, like one of those like gut-wrenching losses that you start to worry like, oh crap, is T1 gonna actually lose this? I think it's just gonna be tough games that they might barely pull out in front of T1, and that's why they might even it. But like, I don't feel like it'll be like, I don't feel like they'll make T1 really nervous on the 5th game. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like T1 is gonna still have the overall advantage.
Yeah. With that being said, this is going to November 2nd is going to be the last game for esports, and then we're going to be coming into a new season of League of Legends. What are like, for a very long time, Riot has been like, we're going to be changing the way the game works and everything like that. And PBE, we have Mbessa, the new champion that is going to be launched when Arcane 2 comes out very soon, and they also are redoing ARAMs, but they're also doing apparently a rework for the way ranked works and on how the game is going to be different in this new coming season. What are your predictions, if you even have thought about it, on how League of Legends is going to be changing when the new season drops in January?
Honestly, I thought about it a little bit when we were talking Arcane season 2 and how Arcane and then the future series that we know is eventually going to come is going to impact how the game changes in game. I think it's pretty unique. I think it brings a different dynamic to the gaming community, to League of Legends, and I think it's something that keeps it fresh, because you think about how long League has been around, and it's not the same game that we started with. It's not. It's completely different in a lot of ways, and it's grown and it's gotten better. It's gotten better. That I have to give credit to Riot. The things they've done for League of Legends has improved the game tremendously, and I think has extended its life a lot. And I think they're just going to continue to do it. And I think what they're doing, a lot of gaming companies pay attention to, because what they're doing is it's next level stuff, man, and it's genius in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird thing to think, but like we basically get a DLC or an expansion every year for League of
Hmm.
Legends. That like the thought process behind it is every year we are getting something different. It's not like it's not like an MMO where like you get a new area. No, we're playing on the same area, but the game is different. The mechanics are different. Every patch is going to be a change to balance this year's iteration of League of Legends. While they will change up the games like, hey, we now have different pathing options in jungle, or the jungle is different with leashing and everything like that. Or now there's new bushes. They're the alcoves on both top and bottom. We have new dragons, new bushes, new not I
Barons.
said plants, new Baron options. That because
Hmm.
we were waiting for Baron, the top side was kind of empty, and then now we have Baron options. We have two Baron options. We have Grubs and the Rift Scuttle or the Scuttle. Well, I can't remember the big purple dude's name.
Yeah.
But like they're constantly adding, especially with like the game being as old as it is. And the question that I constantly ask myself, and this is like hard to say because like unless I'm in a riot meeting, uh, I can't really answer this one. But like, do you think they are having a hard time engineering or making new things for League of Legends? Or do you think they just have a backlog of things they want to add into the game and are just every season just like, let's see if we can add this one or let's see if we can add this one? Because like I don't know the direction they want to take the game, but I also don't know if there is a direction for the game to take specifically to be new and like genuous that couldn't be replayed for a very long time without having to feel stale.
Uh, I feel like so. I would say when they first released the game, obviously they were much smaller companies, much smaller budget. I think a lot of the changes we have seen over the years were probably like backlog stuff. Now I think it's more a lot of creative minds are getting together. They're like, hey, how can we continue? We've already implemented ideas. What more can we do? I think they do take into account a lot of what their fan base says. So I just personally, I think they're just making a lot of the right decisions. They're being very smart with what they're how they're looking to change the game, how they're looking to improve the game. I just feel like they're hitting all the right spots right now. Hopefully, they don't get over confident about some of them and make some unnecessary risk or take unnecessary risks or chances. But right now, I think some of the new stuff we're seeing, I think that's been in the works per se. Like Arcane 2, they probably started talking about it when they came up with the idea for Arcane 2. Hey, how about if we start designing the lore around the series and then we implement changes in the game uh through that. But I think like as we going on, like so right now Arcane 2 is already coming out. So we know they're done with that project. They're probably already working on the next series that they're gonna add. And they're already thinking, all right, hey, what do we want to do with this series? How do we want to implement it into the game? What changes or what characters do we want to design or change around that series? I think they're already working on all that. But I think a lot of the major changes, like I said, was already the backlog stuff, like you said. I think that already has taken place because it's been around for so long 12 something, 12 years, 13 years. So I think a lot of that is already there. And they're just continuing to bring to life their vision. And I just think, like, we've talked about this plenty of times and we credit them in everything they do when it comes to anything related to League of Legends. They care about their product, man. They just care about their product. They will not they damage their image in any way. They won't
Mm,
do anything to minimize the quality of their product. They care about it. Mm.
I was gonna say, image wise, they won't damage their image with through the game as much as they can. Like there have been patches where like people are like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Which is
Yeah,
like
there's always
the
critiques.
nightmare patch with Mordekaiser being able to have a dragon follow him around, or like patches where like you obviously something was broken and they just hot fixed it or something like that. Like
But that's
the
small stuff. That's not anything that's
but
detrimental to the game.
yeah, but like the they have had backlashes with like the Riot
Yeah.
company itself, like the employees at Riot being like, very, very, like, I don't want to say promiscuous, but scandalous. There's already
Yeah.
scandals with Riot. But yeah, through the games, they're very passionate. Every like time that I've talked to a Riot employee or have seen Riot employees interact with the community, they're very passionate about it. Some people even say it's kind of cultish at Riot, to say like they literally their entire community is built around the game.
Yeah.
So it's weird to say, but like I do agree with you. They're very passionate about the game. We'll see what kind of changes they do, any reworks. Let's see if they even like do anything like too big, because there is a point in time where I think, I don't know, it might not be soon, but like in the future, I do think they might switch to a 2-year cycle where instead of updating the game every year, they update the game every 2 years. And just change characters and champions and things like that and balance those. But we'll see what they do. Last thing before we get off is because of Worlds, and I'll actually, let me give you some context. Aurora been banned 44 times in Pro League, all right? She has a 96% presence in the championships right now. In season 14. Or excuse me, not season 14. Or it is season 14, but yeah. That is crazy to me. But here's the other thing. There are other champions that are like used throughout the world, and then there's some champions that are used in region specifically. Do you think ranked is going to pick up champions because of Worlds like every time before? And which one do you think it is? Because I can tell you right now, the most played champion in the Worlds, right now I think is Aurora. Yes, Aurora and Yone.
Isn't Aurora like another version of Zoe? I think, right?
I don't want to say she's Zoe's like.
Or another one. Who's the
She's
other one?
she's similar to Zoe, but like
Zoe,
very
right?
burst champion, very combo based. If it was like Zoe and Wei combined together.
Okay. I think so. It's funny you say that, and because like literally what came to mind, Gerard, is you got to understand, for people that maybe haven't been following as long as us, Worlds and the esport tournament and all that is basically a sport. And so, like you said, usually ranked players or players in general, just after they watch Worlds, they want to do what they saw in Worlds, right? And it's like you think about it, you think about the big players in any sport, kids idolize them, they want to be like them. So of course I think whatever we see in Worlds, we're gonna see next season. People are gonna be trying to emulate it and replicate it and do what they saw Faker or Zeus or any of them doing. Whatever character they played or whatever build they were doing, they're gonna try to do it, right? Because they idolize those players, they want to be like those players, and it's just like you see in sports, everybody used to want to shoot like Kobe and jump, and they say Kobe, right? So even though I don't know if Kobe really said that, that'd be hilarious if he called out his own name while he shot them. But
Happens.
but like you think about Michael Jordan, how he wore jersey, he's the one that changed up a lot of the style in the NBA. You think about even baseball players like Ken Griffey Jr., how he influenced the game and how the style, he brought a lot of swag to the game. I just think it's, this is a sport these days. Worlds, League of Legends Worlds is a sport, and these players are just influenced by it. I think it's gonna always be like that. Every year we're gonna see it because you got to think there's a younger crowd, they're influenced by them, and sometimes the meta changes based on how Worlds goes too.
Yep. And I think that's a good point to end on, with the meta changing as we come into November 2nd, the finals, the last meta that's going to actually matter until the new season of Ranked comes out in January. With that being said, I will be very mad if I see more Auroras in my game. Uh, so
Listen, I took my emerald and ran. I'm it's the highest rank I've gotten to. Good.
more Yones. That's it from us. We'll leave a comment down below on your thoughts and who you're rooting for in the world's finals for League of Legends, November 2nd, T1 versus BiliBili. We'll be watching as well. So, with that, thank you gamers for watching. Peace.
Later.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Part-Time Gamers podcast. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And follow us on our other social platforms on TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. Links for those will be provided in the description. Thank you again. We will see you on the next episode of the podcast. And make sure you make some time for video games. Peace.